Time to Wonder podcast, a behind-the-scenes peek into the world of museums for kids of all ages everywhere. Hi, I'm Ava.
Hi, I'm Lesley.
And I'm Sue.
And this is a podcast where kids ask questions about museums.
And we find the answers.
The big question today is that bear real? In this program, we're going to be talking about taxidermied animals. While there is no graphic content, it still may be disturbing to some children.
So, Sue, you know that many museums include natural history exhibits. And in fact, there are museums that are all devoted to natural history. For example, one I used to visit in Ottawa when I was a kid.
I've seen natural history museums too. I saw one in Dublin, in Ireland, and I've also visited the American Museum of Natural History in New York City.
But that makes me think, what exactly is natural history?
Well, when you think about the words, you could think about natural history as the story of nature.
We can learn a lot from the story of nature by looking at animals, fish, insects, rocks, plants, trees, water, even microscopic organisms, anything that exists in nature. Some natural history museums include outer space in their definition of natural history, since what goes on in outer space affects many things in nature. Just think what would happen if we had no sun.
That's for sure. Kids have lots of questions about the animals they see in museums. So today, we're going to talk about some of those animals.
Today's guest is Solange Massicotte. Solange is a program coordinator for the Kelowna Museums. She's going to answer some of the many questions she gets about animals from the kids as they come through the museum with their schools or with their families.
Hi, Solange.
Hey, Ava, how are you?
Good. So good to talk to you.
Awesome that you have me here. I'm excited that you invited me today.
There are lots of questions from kids about the animals they see in museums.
Awesome. Yeah. Do you have a few for me?
We have heard that the children who have visited the museum have named many of the animals.
Yes, you're absolutely correct, Ava. We actually have all kinds of fun names for the animals in the museum. And what's great and what's cute about it, it's normally the students or the children that are visiting us that come up with these fantastic names that do our programs with us. One of them is Justin Beaver. So we have a beaver called Justin Beaver. We have a wolverine called Doreen the Wolverine, just to name a few. We've got the two goats are Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos. I don't know why they called them that, but
Because they're rich.
yeah, because they're goats. Yeah, they're billionaires. I'm surprised they didn't do Bill Gates, but hey, if the children speak, we pick the names that they choose. What else do we have? We have a lot of really cute ones. Stuart the Stoat, Martin the Pine Martin, and of course, I could list many more, but our favorite, or the one that I always introduce the children to, is Waffles. Waffles is our grizzly bear. So he has his little pop, and he always says hello to the children walking by when they come see the galleries.
How old are the people that give names to them? How old are they usually?
Actually, it's a variety of ages, really, because sometimes we have a vast majority of students that visit us are from kindergarten to grade 6. And so it's a variety. Sometimes we have kindergartners who say cute things like calling the beaver pelt a pancake. And then we have older students like in grade 5 and 6, and they're the ones that thought up Jeff Bezos, for example. Maybe they're a little bit older. So it's really a variety of ages. That's a good question.
Are the animals real that are in the museum?
So they are real. And that's sometimes Visitors or students or children think they're not real, but they actually are real. They're just passed on or they're dead and now they're on display. So what we do is we do something called taxidermy, and that's a process to make them look alive.
What is taxidermy?
So taxidermy, it's actually, I don't know in full detail, but what we tell our students, it's kind of a science in natural history museums of what they do to preserve or protect the animals to make them look like alive. So there's a variety of things. They use chemicals to keep the fur nice and healthy, and sometimes they stuff it with inside different things. Like, for example, birds are stuffed with cotton to give them their shape, but other animals have kind of sometimes cotton with wiring or styrofoam. And then Waffles in particular, he's bigger. I asked the curator today because I was curious to know how he was made. And since he's bigger, he's kind of got some wooden plaster and wooden paneling inside of him to make him shaped like a big bear. And then he has other things to kind of conserve him, like those chemicals. So it's a big scientific process, which I cannot do, but there's people in Kelowna or outsourced that can do it for us if we need the animals to be on display.
Why are there animals in a museum, and what can kids learn from seeing animals in a museum?
So I think animals in the museum is a great idea because not all of nature you can get up close and personal, or you can see it up close. And I think that's why a lot of natural history museums like us or the Heritage Museum, where we can show animals up close and personal, like myself, I could never be close to a mountain lion or a lynx or a big bear or, because it's dangerous, but it's neat to see them up close. And the same thing with the birds and some things maybe that are flying and far away in the trees. You can kind of observe them and kind of study them. And it's just, I think children find it fascinating.
Why don't you stuff fish?
So this is the thing. We actually do stuff fish. So fish are kind of, you might have seen it in some people in their homes. They actually stuff them and they mount them. They mount the fish and they put it on their walls. And the thing is, I'm actually originally from the Maritimes, so I've worked in maritime museums or museums with kind of aquatic lives, and I've actually seen stuffed lobsters before. So there's a variety of like sea creatures, I should say, or ocean creatures that you can actually taxidermy and stuff, including the fish. So it is actually, there are some fish. We just don't have them at our museum on display at the moment, but I'm sure we probably have some in our collection.
Do you kill the animals?
We do not. So what happens is the animals are brought to us. So either a taxidermist had the animals already made and created for the museum, and we've got them that way, or people that if the animals have naturally died on their own. So, or if they legally were hunted, in this case, Waffle was legally hunted at the time, they're actually brought to us for science so that we can study them and display them. So we never, ever, ever, ever go out and kill the animals. The animals are either passed on naturally or are brought to us. But that's like a common question we do get from kids. So we make sure to tell them, like, no, we love animals.
Where do you get the animals?
So that's a variety of things. So sometimes we'll source out and we'll maybe talk to a taxidermist, someone nearby who might have some animals that we want for display. But then other times they're actually brought to us. People bring things to us that they think we might want to put in our museum and our exhibit. And we actually have some animals, well, in our freezer, so we have some animals that they're kept frozen and preserved, so we could, if we wanted to, taxidermy them and put them on display at the museum. So we sometimes get a lot of donated birds, so after a while we say to people, okay, we can't take any more birds or like certain type of creatures because we already have those animals. But yeah, that's also an excellent question we get often.
I have a question. What kind of like animals do you have at your museum?
Variety. So all the animals we have on display right now are from the Okanagan. So we sadly don't have any zebras or, those type of animals because we don't have them here in the Okanagan region that are naturally of this area. So, yeah, a vast variety of them.
Can kids touch the animals?
So they cannot, and that's because we want to protect, we want to conserve these animals and have them for a very long time. So we ask students and adults, it's not just students, we ask adults as well not to touch the animals because we want to protect them so that we can study them. However, because we understand a lot of students want to feel the fur and it looks nice and shiny, we actually have in the education department, we have pelts or we have furs that people can touch. And those are some in particular that people really enjoy. We have a lynx, we have an otter, we have a beaver. What else? We got a raccoon. We've got a bunny, just off the top of my head. So you can feel what the fur feels like. Yeah, we have a black bear. So we have that opportunity for those that can't help themselves and want to touch the animals. Like the kindergartners. Yeah.
What happens if an animal has fleas or bugs?
So this is something I asked our conservator, her name's Megan, and she says if it has fleas or bugs, what they do is they actually freeze the animals, or they freeze the taxidermy or fur or leather or organic materials. And when they freeze it, what happens is it kills the bugs, but it also kills the eggs. So if the bugs laid any eggs, it kills that as well, and it kills the pest. And she said to me, when you put it in, you got to make sure it's contained, like in a bag or something, so that any other materials in there, whether it's you got a few other taxidermies in there and you have many, you got to make sure that it's if the bugs are dying, that they stay in their own. Anyway, she was trying to give me the secrets of how to kill those bugs.
How long do the animals last?
So hopefully, if we can take care of them, meaning we keep them not handled, no one's petting them or touching them, or we conserve them and that they're taxidermies, we hope they last for a very, very long time, actually. Some of the animals that we have, I keep referring to good old Waffles. He's been with us since around 1987 or so he's been with us for a while. Some of these animals have been 40 to 50 years with us and hopefully longer, so that you can study them. So maybe hopefully, Ava, your children or your grandchildren or their grandchildren, down generations can come and see these animals on display.
Thank you, Solange, for taking the time to answer our questions.
No, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. You have fantastic questions.
Welcome back to part 2 of Time to Wonder podcast.
Kids often ask, who chooses what goes into an exhibit and who builds the exhibits?
In our next episode, which we're calling What Goes Where and How Did It Get There, we're going to be speaking to 2 fabrication designers.
What is a fabrication designer?
That's a person who finds a way to display items and belongings in a museum so that visitors will be interested in the story they tell. At the same time, it's the fabrication designer's job to make sure those items stay safe when they are included in exhibits.
Say the Beaver House in the Science Center in Vancouver, someone built that. Or the Float House in the Museum of Campbell River, or the Tent House in the Summerland Museum. Someone or several people created those exhibits.
It's usually a team effort, but the display looks the way it does because fabrication designers worked on the project.
Did you know that in most museums, only some of the items and belongings owned or housed in the museum can be seen by visitors?
Where are the rest of them?
They might be in storage in a place where they can be kept safe, where the temperature is controlled, and where they aren't exposed to sunlight.
Why don't all museums put everything they have on display?
The space in a museum is often too small to exhibit everything they have.
And sometimes a belonging might be too fragile or delicate to put on display.
Some belongings in a museum are kept in trust for a family and will never go on a display.
Oftentimes, a museum may have more than one of the same item, like maybe they might have a few old typewriters or a few saddles that were used in the late 1800s. They won't put them all on display at the same time.
Luckily for us, museums create temporary exhibits, and they will bring out belongings that are kept in storage for those exhibits.
How do they decide what is taken out of storage and put into an exhibit?
It's a team effort. A curator who oversees a museum's collection might get an idea or might be given an idea for an exhibit. Then all sorts of people get involved in making that exhibit come alive.
Is that where the fabrication designer comes in?
Exactly right. They work with the curators and the program department and the people who schedule what goes on in the museum. Sometimes they'll come up with an idea for how belongings will be displayed. And other times, the curators will have an idea of how the belongings will be displayed. But they will be responsible for physically creating the exhibit.
They construct things with metal, with wood. They might even work with electronics, lights, and sound. Most of the time, they have taken courses at college or university to learn how to build and design exhibits. In this next episode, you'll be able to ask questions about how things are chosen for exhibits and how they are displayed in museums.
Thanks again to today's guests. Our music was written by Kevin MacLeod and is licensed under Creative Commons. For complete information, see our blog post at timetowonderpodcast.com.
For more information on this episode, visit timetowonderpodcast.com. A special thank you to our producer, Danny Rindeau. Thank you, Danny.
If you enjoy the podcast, please subscribe. Remember, next time you go to a museum, look, listen, and wonder.